Okay. Hey guys, welcome back to another day in our Quark live series, Person Behind the Persona. Today is going to be an absolute banger for you young developers out there. I'm Praneeth, and we have a very special guest with us, an alumnus from our very own college, BitScore. As an open source enthusiast, he cracked GSOC 16, where he worked under KDE to make a rating engine, which utilizes several parameters such as page interconnections, revision history, to evaluate the reliability and quality of articles and pages on wiki-style learning platforms. He completed his internship at PayPal and went on to work for Oracle for about 3 years. He is now an SDE2 at Microsoft, and who better to help us land a job at our dream company? Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Abhimanyu Singh Shekhawat. On to you, sir.
Hey Praneeth, hey Quark's team. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
Thanks a lot for having me here and this lovely introduction. Really appreciate that. And really honored to share the stage with the likes of Sarit Sivarma. I guess that's an incredibly good speaker you got 2 days back. So kudos to the entire team. Now coming back to this talk. I mean, I have a lot to share for my younger self if I talk about my 2 cents, right? I want to relay a lot of data back. But since this is Quark, right? So we'll talk more about the tech today. Okay. Now, why should you even listen to this talk? First, let's get that question out of the picture. I think behind every problem, right, there has to be a context before you start suggesting some solution for any problem. Right? Similarly, I think being a student myself, and that too from the same college, I think I'm aware of a lot of unique problems, unique scenarios that the students from BitScore face in their day-to-day life. So I think that equips me to talk more about a very relevant recommendation when it comes to landing very good tech jobs or preparing for interviews in general. Okay. So I think that makes a big difference if you talk about a very specific, focus towards crafting a journey to reach a particular goal. From questions like why do I even need to study disco or LCS or I'm a computer science grad. Why do I need to study computer architecture? Because I won't be dealing with circuits anymore, right? So these are the questions which I also had during my undergrad. And I think to answer these, let me take you through a very interesting thought experiment that I came across some time back. It's from Mark Robert, and I think it is really relevant for this talk. So suppose you are given these 8 buttons, okay, and you're also having a particular very big instruction manual, which basically instructs you to say press button 1 for 5 seconds, press button 5 for 1 second, and so on and so forth. And now this instruction manual has say 100 pages, and you can't proceed to the next page without completing all the instructions on the current page. Okay. Now I want to ask you, how does this task sounds to you? And bear in mind that you have to do this continuously for 2 weeks, and each day you need to devote about 2 hours for this task at a stretch. Take a pause and think about whether will you be able to willingly pursue this task. It's not difficult to say a straight no for this because it looks like pretty boring a grunt work, right? But what if I just do a nice paint job on this and put these buttons onto a joystick, okay, an Xbox controller for that matter, okay, and take out the name of test and put a game tag over there. And to make your job even simpler, let's remove all the textual instructions and put a game, right? Because if you think about it, take a step back, this is exactly what you are doing when you play a video game, right? For a third person, and if I remove the display from your desk, you are basically pressing some random keys for random interval of time, right? This is what it appears. Now, why this particular thought experiment is relevant to you? See, if you can drill down at why, you can derive certain purpose from the work that appears to be of no value. For instance, I hear a lot of time that okay, coding jobs are like really mundane, and what do we even do? We just sit on our desk, drink coffee occasionally, and press some buttons, stare at the screen all day. It sure looks like that because you don't have the context of the problems that we are trying to solve here, right? And I'm really happy with the work that I am doing. Why? Because I don't solve faceless problems, right? And what do I mean by that? See, yes, you code for long hours, okay, but think about the impact that you are actually creating. For instance, so I'm working with Microsoft Azure Cosmos DB, and we are powering softwares which are used by millions and millions of users every day. And if you can calculate the impact per keystroke, it's phenomenal, right? So if you can connect your some task, some learning opportunity to the outcome, it takes a lot of pain away in doing that. And let me go back to the same question: why do we need to learn, say, discrete mathematics? Why can't I just code my way through these 8 semesters in college? When you deal with massive systems on such large scales, and you're required to write high performance code, and in that point of time you cannot be agnostic of what goes beneath the system. It really helps if you know that, right? So to get a good grip of the fundamentals, I will definitely urge you to, first of all, whenever you start these theoretical subjects in your college, right? Or when you're not sure why you should even pursue a particular branch in computer science, just take a step back, try to gather some perspective, and ask the person who is, maybe your instructor or someone, what is the relevance of this course? Once you have that particular information in your mind, not only will you be able to relate your current matter in a much efficient way, but you will also be able to retain it and do it in an applied fashion going forward. So, first of all, I'm really fascinated with computer science because it looks like there is something for almost everyone, right? This is like a very interesting graphic that I came across on the internet, and as you can see, you may be interested into the theoretical aspects of computer science. Okay, it's an entire research field out there for you to grab. Okay, or maybe you like more of hands-on. You're more of a hands-on person, and you want to just churn on good code. Be my guest. Okay, you can really work upon the open source stack and craft out very good software. Okay, and of course there is AI, there is ML that is supposed to be a buzzword for a couple of days, or I mean couple of years for now. But here there is a particular point that I would like to stress upon. See, it's fine to choose some particular stack and drill down, drill very deep into that. But if you are into college, my advice will be to take your sweet time, okay, before really choosing your niche. Because college is a very conducive environment to try out new things, and you will just never know that, okay, your other roommate, okay, since you are in the virtual model right now, your other Zoom call mate may be working on something else, and it's really great if you can just have a conversation going on and know more about their work, maybe share about your work too, and who knows that you might able to find some really good intersection to work upon. So I would say, don't just follow a particular trend because all the people are doing, right? So for instance, yeah, machine learning is fun, it's good, nice, but if you are into that game just because every other course is entro-ng course, uh, might not be a very good choice. Just find out why you gravitate towards a certain subject or particular branch, and what all extra is there, right? Try to shuffle things up and yeah, enjoy your time out here, right? And my recommendation appeals to be that don't be a specialist, because if you are specifically focusing upon the, say, for example, the placements, right? In that context, the companies that are coming to the campus, or the companies that you will be applying for after your undergrad, right, just after you are graduate, those don't expect you to be like a very like an ML ninja or a AI specialist. Okay, they know the limitations of somebody in the college, right? They don't expect you to just straight away design new models or design new algorithms. Okay, so they are well aware of that, that you are an undergrad, and you should also don't have like such amazingly like high expectation that okay, straight out I'm going to do this research. There are opportunities, no doubt. Okay, and for example, if you want to do freelancing, you can very well choose your own niche. Okay, you can be a JavaScript developer for all that I matter, and just double down on that path. Or if you are on to a particular startup scene, then fine, choose your own niche, build stuff. But this advice holds true for the general population, right? And we are not talking about the outlierish cases here. Okay, so generally it's a good idea to have a holistic profile under your belt, because this is what the companies that will be coming to your campus will be looking for. Okay. Yeah, and I particularly like this slide because there is a lot to talk about this particular uh, balancing act that each one of you has to pull during your college years. So definitely, CGPA is a very it's a very tricky topic because it's important, but to what extent is it important? I will say that it should be invisible. And but what do I mean by that? See, it should be at such a value that it shouldn't appear to be interfering with your opportunities. Okay, certain cases which require to have a very extremely high CGPA, I can get it. Okay, maybe you want to pursue research after that. But since this talk is entirely focusing on the placement scenario, I would say have a comfortable CGPA that will not affect your that benchmark that we have in the PU, right? That you need to cross to sit for the lot of companies. Have a decent amount of CGPA so that it doesn't reflect poorly on your resume, and it doesn't open up a room for potential questions from the recruiter side about why it's so low or stuff like that. Have it decently under your belt. Don't overdo it, because it's like you have limited resources during your college, right? And I would say there are other areas in this placement preparation that I would say like open source is there. You can contribute to open source. You can try for programs like GSOC, and maybe some other summer of codes are also coming up. Do participate in these programs. They have a great area to give you exposure for that, and also they look really valuable on your resume for that. And if you take about the cosmetic purpose, it also enhances your skill because you are getting a chance to work with world class developers for free. I mean, they are mentoring you for free, and students look for internships. That's fine, but I would say that if you are able to get under the mentorship of some very good programmer, like world class programmers, that's as good as internships, folks, right? So do try out these opportunities if you get them. Which Goa has an awesome culture. I'm pretty sure that you have lots of them. Talk to your seniors, okay? Attend sessions like this, QSTP, and yeah, do it in Quark, because a lot of opportunities are showcased over here. Now, I'll talk specifically about this competitive programming bubble that is going around here. So, one line description: competitive programming is like DSA on steroids. Okay, it is not the necessary and the sufficient condition to crack interviews, but I will say it uh, does have a carry forward on your problem solving skills during the interviews. So do it if you like it, if you enjoy that entire experience of cracking some pipe problems under 2 hours and stuff like that. Definitely do it, and it's really good experience. You should actually try it in some point of your life, but do not think that this is the only way to crack these coding interviews. Why I'm saying is this, so I have seen a lot of folks, they just try to cram up solutions before the interviews. And it's rarely useful. I mean, it's sometimes counterproductive. You will get a lot of confusion out there because the questions are, almost limitless. So there's a limit to your ability to cram up, right? So, and competitive programming is, I mean, sincerely, it's not that. Just it used to be a sport some years back. Now, like everybody's doing it, so people are just jumping on the wagon from left and right. So my recommendation is just try it once, do it. If you like it, just do it because there are a lot of other ways you can also prepare for DSA that we will see moving along. And finally, definitely have a life basically outside these particular segments because college is a great time to foster relationships and have good connections, which will be really hard to come by in the later years. And these conversations that you might have around Food King or Night Mess, right? They can shape really good products moving in the future. Like Bits Pilani basically has a great entrepreneurship culture. Maybe that is the reason that because of this, right? So keep your eyes and ears open and try out things, but also have a definite some kind of fixed plan to raise your stars on these particular fronts that you just see. Now let me talk about the process which I like to follow when it's the interview season. Okay, let me talk very specifically to what I did and what I like to do in the future. So I would say the first and foremost thing that you should do, and so for people who are just sitting on the placements, it is maybe not so much relevant for you because I find a lot of job descriptions to be very generic. But this is specifically useful for the folks who are, maybe after 1 year they are trying to for some off-campus opportunities, or for that fact, if you are in the campus and you are trying to some off-campus job, do read job description very thoroughly, right? Try to filter out the impact words, okay? What all tech stack is being demanded and how you can align your resume to be in a better shape with that requirements, okay? See what all mandatory requirements are definitely there. Like if they require some experience under some particular framework, and if that's a non-negotiable, you might want to get that under your belt, right? So I see a lot of applicants, they don't pay any attention to these job descriptions and they just jump straight ahead to the process. And it's not a recommended way, trust me, right? So be very mindful about this particular step. Also, it's probably very funny, but let's talk about something more about resume because it seems like all of us know how to make a resume, but still there is a lot to learn in this particular segment. For instance, I have seen folks who just submit like name and then the company name, right? As generally, you have this template like Abhimanyu, Microsoft, and then you submit the resume. Some folks just submit a wrong resume to wrong company, like Abhimanyu, Microsoft, and you submit it to Amazon. So that is not a very good practice to follow. That brings me to the customization you have to do for each and every company, each and every job profile you have. Some folks are sitting for tech placements, some are for sitting for non-tech placements. Do craft out your resume to reflect to that particular job. Okay. If you are sitting for a tech job, and for example, if the requirement is very Pythonic in nature, like they require more of Python projects, and you have done like Python projects, Java projects, prioritize Python projects, okay, or vice versa. Because look, the recruiter has very less time to just have a cursory look at your resume. If they don't find any interesting, it will be tossed away, to be very honest, right? And that is why your resume should look like an elevator pitch. It should give the most important details at the first glance, right? And how do you do that? You basically stress upon the impact that you have created in the particular project, okay? Do not just say vaguely that, okay, improved Android application. This is a very bad line to put in your resume. But you can put something like improved the memory consumption by 12% for this particular Android application. By putting this, the recruiter will be able to gauge that, okay, this person is talking about figures and he knows what he's talking about, what she's talking about. So that is very important, okay. Put a bold face to your impact words. Like if you are using some framework, let's say you are using some Django framework, put Django in bold face. It will attract attention better. Okay. Have proper hyperlinks in your resume. Say if you are putting a website, make it hyperlinked. Okay. And I can't stress it enough, folks. Do not lie on your resume ever. Your resume can potentially be, can just be a starting point to talk. But if the recruiter senses that, okay, maybe this person is not that aware about this project, which is claiming to be very proficient about, it can just open up whole kind of forms, right? You can just lose your credibility right there. And it's a very difficult spot to be. So I would say don't worry if you are putting very limited tech stack. There is no harm in that. Don't go ahead and put like 15 tech stack, 15 languages when you just wrote some hello world application in one of them. Don't do that. Even if you're putting two languages, it's fine. You need to be able to justify why you're putting some projects inside a resume. You should have a thorough knowledge about everything that you're putting into, right? A very good thumb of rule is that your resume is your minimum syllabus. That much you should be able to really be thorough with. Okay. And I mean, don't make like 3 page long resume. I would say it's generally advisable to make it 1 page. And definitely I would consider the experience of college be able to, you know packed into 1 page. So do make a resume of 1 page. That would be my advice here. And the fifth thing is, you can't just make a perfect copy in your first attempt. Improvise it, send it out to across your friends and show it to your parents. I don't know, but get it revised and reviewed. Okay, at least you will need 5 to 6 iterations to strike that perfect resume that you can send back to a recruiter. Okay, do that. It pays a great deal of amount in the long run. Now, this is pretty interesting because from a couple of years, I've noticed that a lot of companies have started putting resources for the candidates on their website itself, right? And to be honest, they are the most credible place you can go to find out more about the interview process. For instance, this is the Microsoft resource page. On the right, you can just see that for technical interview, they have very nicely put forward the information for each and every bucket that the candidate must, I mean, they should know, right? And this is like, again, the minimum you should actually target is this one. Okay. Also on YouTube you'll find a lot of these resources, good resources. Also just Google it up, search it up, and then you will get a lot of these resources. Try to go through them before your interview, at least one, so that you get an entire idea of what is expected of you for that company, right? And by doing this, you will also be able to gauge the scope of your preparation. I mean, should you go into deep on trees, or should you stop after you are able to solve 2 DDP or just simple questions on trees, right? This also gives you that example. Do go through these resources. Okay, so here is the example of like my process for like how I used to go about the DSA preparation. So I used to just like solving these problems, okay, in my free time. So this is, I mean, before the interviews also started and all. So we just, I used to practice, but how I used to practice was so specifically I used to solve problems on both forces, okay, just because I like the collection over there. But you are free to choose any of these open source sites for preparation. But I would like to mention that do not try to solve a lot of problems for this your interview preparation, because ultimately what people start doing is they have this urge to just read a lot of problems and try to just read and understand the solution and be under this impression that they will be able to write this code into the actual interview. Don't do that. The purpose of this practice should be, firstly, writing code is very essential. Okay, you don't know the problem until you just code it and get all the test case passed. Okay, have a habit of writing all the code. That is first and foremost. By doing it, you will, if in the interview, if you are able to face an entirely new problem, say it's a graph problem, at least you can write the extra in a very short period of time, right? Bug free code. That can only be achieved if you focus on implementation. Okay, and if that is under a muscle memory, then you can definitely focus more on the actual problem that you're asked in the interview. Okay, that will drastically increase the likelihood of you solving a completely new problem during the interviews. Okay, also, while you solve a particular problem, try to map that to the buckets that you have in your subject. For example, the first step is to identify what strategy you can employ in solving this problem. Like, why is it not greedy? It looks like greedy, but it is not greedy. Why? And what happens if you solve it by dynamic programming, right? These answers should be available to you. You should ask these questions and also try to read the editorials that you get, or maybe solutions by some other folks, to understand some better approaches to solve that particular problem. This exercise alone will put you, way ahead of a lot of people who are not doing this and just maybe going to some websites, pulling up archives and reading the solutions. Don't do that. Okay. Another important thing about this preparation is DSC is one aspect, but what about subjects like OOP, OS, networks, DBMS, and for senior folks, system design, right? Because if you think about it, the resources are so vast, you will not be able to cover it and you will get overwhelmed. Okay. So my advice will be to decide your scope first of all by following, like looking up the interview experiences of other people or going to the company's resource page itself. Try to restrict your scope first and then make a list. Make a list. Don't copy paste some other list. Make your own list, okay, of the topics that you can't teach some other person. Okay, try to summarize each topic, okay, as if you're teaching some other person, and that will uncover a lot of loopholes into your preparation. So after doing that exercise, make a list of all the topics that you're not sure about, and then try to find answers specific to that. Okay, you can go to Stack Overflow, you can go to blogs, you can watch YouTube videos. It's all right. Okay, try to figure out what works best for you, because for specifically for these kind of, I would say, areas, I don't find a very like one size fit all solution. So you have to mix and match according to your particular condition for these all these very wide subjects, and definitely have a definite list to cover before you proceed. It will give you confidence that okay, at least you know these areas, and now your preparation is complete. Definitely make a list. Okay, so that is how you would prepare before the interview. But what to do during an interview, that is also very important. So during the interview, I'm assuming that you have introspected a lot about certain factors, like why do you want this job? So this is a behavioral question, right? And I mean, it's a very cliched one, because why do you want a job? I mean, you won't be asked this probably. You can be asked like how this tell me about some challenging time in this project from your resume. So these are like behavioral questions, right? The minimum script that you have for these is your resume. Try to relate all the work that you have done and also put it inside your resume. Try to relate that to the current job. How will that be beneficial? Introspect about your strengths over here, okay? And definitely furnish a very nice self introduction, okay, during this start of the interview. Second, very important part is try to think aloud and clarify the problem statement before proceeding with the solution. It doesn't harm to ask questions in the interview, and it often is a good practice, I would say, because in the industry we ask a lot of questions and that is looked up, right? Because you are encouraged to get the entire spec, entire holistic picture of the problem you are solving before proceeding. It saves time, saves energy. So, and try to think loud. If you are getting the problem, try to walk the interviewer through the process that you are trying to take, because it's very beneficial to get them on board with your direction, because otherwise you might branch out into direction B and the problem is solvable by direction A. So that is not a good way to be, inside the interview, because a lot of interviewers will stop you if you are digressing onto a wrong path. So have a clear direction, be very clear with your approach, and try to verbalize your thinking during the interview. Please write clean code. I mean, for loops, ijk is fine, but don't name your variables aj, a, b, c. Okay, name it properly. Follow a consistent convention, any convention of your choice, generally which is followed by that language itself. It will be highly advisable. And because during the interviews, we don't only see whether the code passes. So this is one of the caveat of this entire competitive programming bubble also. I myself will admit that during the competitive programming, it doesn't matter. Okay, you can write shit code, because the duration, the life cycle of that code is very small. It just till you pass the contest. But when you are into a production environment, the life cycle of your code can span decades. So you have to write a code which is maintainable, and that is a clean code. So try to name your variables properly. Try to, you know, put in the modular practices, follow the best practices, and it definitely has brownie points. And if the time permits, definitely I would say, before saying the interviewer that this you are done, this is the solution. Try to do a dry run of that code in your head. If possible, write unit test. It's absolutely, a great way to impress the interviewer if you write a unit test for your code. But at least for the very basic, try to do a dry run, try to catch some edge cases yourself. You will be rewarded for that. Trust me. Now, okay, this is a particular segment which is not talked about often, because as a college graduate, you might not get a chance to negotiate or to think about multiple offers. But if you are applying for some off-campus opportunities, right? I think it's very instrumental to firstly understand your offer completely. Don't hesitate getting the answers about any questions you have. Okay, what is CTC? What are these perks? What are these benefits? You should be aware of all of that. Okay. Plus, salary negotiation is not like hostile thing. It's like, it's not you versus them. It's both the parties are trying to work together to solve a common problem. That is the output that you should apply to the entire scene. Okay. Don't think it as a confrontation. It's an interaction to arrive at a common point, right? So to have that, there are a lot of resources also available online, like this site candor.com. It has a great guide about salary negotiation and stuff like that. Do make your way through it if you have time. And also, like, there are particular sites dedicated to it which can give you the details of the compensation that is generally the industry value. So maybe after you graduate, take a first job, and if you want to switch, then how do you assess the market value? Definitely these sites can really help you. levels.fyi is a good great site for that, and I'm sure you must be aware of a lot of other sites. So yeah, do make sure that you are doing your entire research before accepting offer. It's very important. Okay, so this is a very interesting thing now. Referrals are a really good way to get your foot inside the door, but the way to ask referral for a good conversion rate is not so, it's not a matter of so much of common sense. So I would have a rule of thumb for that. Do good networking. What do I mean by that? See, networking is definitely a bi-directional communication. You have LinkedIn, you have Twitter for your disposal. Okay, these platforms are really great to connect with the tech community around you. Okay, and networking is not just like, okay, following a person. Do you actually make use of the opportunities you have to engage with a conversation with a particular person? Okay. Do you actually put forward your ideas, your work for the other community to see that what are you up to? That is an important part to building a network. And I would say network should be built first and not on demand when your need arises, because then it's not networking, it's like favor. Okay. And people know it right away. And I would say it's fine if you are starting up and you just have that need to ask for a referral without a network. Then there is also a particular way that you should proceed with. Firstly, try to evaluate your own resume, whether it actually fits the job opening or not. Like if it's a research internship, we don't really care if you have 5 stars in code, chef, long challenges. Okay, it's good, nice, good for you. But do you have research publications? Do you have the projects that can showcase your research caliber under your belt? Do evaluate your resume before sending it across. Okay. And while you do that, try to establish your credibility in a very concise way. Be very crisp in your introduction and what this entire message is all about, because the other person is probably getting hundreds of messages, so they don't have a lot of time to investigate your profile themselves, like okay, let me check his LinkedIn because he hasn't written anything about this particular profile of his. Don't do that. Put every relevant information in the message, and surely follow up with the person or with the job portal. Okay, just look what is the status of your particular application. Okay, and try to follow that up and move forward with your entire process. Okay, I know it's a very exhaustive task to do, but it will be really beneficial for you if you proceed in a very systematic fashion like this. And this is a particular email that I got, and I really like this email because see how crisp it is. The subject is particularly evident that the person is asking for some referral, some internship, research internship. They have particularly written why it should be given to them, why they are a good candidate for that. They have attached their resume, and it's pretty short, right? It takes you like 30 seconds to go through the entire thing. So I highly recommend following something like this. That's a good example. Emulate this. So to sum this all up, okay, I'm sure that there is no one size fit all roadmap again, but there is a meta roadmap of making your own roadmap. So I would definitely urge you to do whatever works for you, but on a higher level, how you should try to structure your entire effort. I would say define your scope. Do not go overboard with one subject. Like don't go like try to become candidate master in say DSA, try to do DP on trees, segment trees when you don't know how to write code in the how to make classes in your language of choice. Okay, have a balanced preparation. Okay, define your scope, use interview experiences and the particular resources that the company provides to do that. Okay, and again, second point is resources are infinite. You have like lead codes are there and like a lot of geeks for geeks archives are there, but there is a limit. You can't do all of them, and I won't recommend. It's not necessary to do all of them. But topics are finite. In operating systems, in the process, in the chapter of synchronization, there are finite concepts. Okay, if you can master them, if you can teach them to some other person that you know them, then you are completely aware of these concepts. Okay, try to complete your topics, not the entire resource pages. Very important to keep in mind. Thirdly, I would say again, for it, this is true for a lot of people. Okay, not all of them, but again, we are not talking about the outliers here. DSA is the most important for your placements. DSA is not competitive programming. We have already talked about this. So DSA is important. Then object-oriented programming, then operating systems, database, and networks. They're like kind of in the same bucket, almost in the same bucket. It depends on the company in which you are applying. And things like ML or some other thing like particular data science courses, game development. It's very good to have, but probably they are not so relevant with a lot of job openings. Okay, people won't specifically drill you down on Android apps while you start. Again, not talking about the startups which have particular openings for Android app development. Then fourth is definitely understand your entire offer, try to negotiate. And here, when I talk about negotiation, you will have certain factors which can affect that. Maybe your past compensation, your interview performance, okay, and what all offers you currently have along with this one, what role you are applying to, what is your location. So these several factors can affect your negotiation. Try to understand that information is power. Try to get all of that before you proceed with the final offer. Fifth, like I mentioned, foster good relationships with people. Okay, interact with the tech community. Put your work out there, showcase your work. Don't be, don't worry about it too much. Just showcase the work because it's not about being an expert before doing that. I would say it's more about documenting your own journey because when you do it, it will sediment the entire learning in you, and that will be very visible to the recruiter that hey, this person knows about say this uh, data science because they have published this great series of blog posts, so they know what they are talking about. It's a great way to show your credibility towards a specific branch of knowledge. Do that. So yeah, I think that's all from my side, and feel free to say hi to me. I am usually active on Twitter, and you can see my ID and reach out to me on my mail ID or LinkedIn. I'll be glad to say hi to you. That's all from my side, folks.
Thanks a lot, sir. That was a very wonderfully illustrated presentation. Shall we move on to the Q&A session?
Definitely, yeah. Keep
Yeah,
it coming.
sure. So here's the first question. What if one has a low CG? His, her dream companies are Google, Amazon, Microsoft, etc. If he, she tries to increase the CG and it's not going to increase that much, what to do?
So I would say during the undergrad, right, your CG is not a center of attraction for these companies, a lot of these companies, right? It's like, for example, if your CG is not incredibly low, it's probably invisible to the recruiters. Okay. And like you mentioned, right now, if you are not able to increase your CGPA, there's no point in stressing over that, right? You should just try to max out the other areas of your preparation. If you can really showcase that you have a lot of skills for like during the interview, if you ace the interview, this is not really looked upon by these companies right now. Does it answer your question?
Yes, I hope that would have answered this question, sir, from YouTube. And let's go on to the next one. Will it be fine if one is good in CP but not so good in open source and other skills?
Great question. So like I said, right, it's always good to have a balance behind these two pillars, like development or competitive programming. But I would say right now, in the Indian black backdrop, for these companies, right, for the very premier companies, their interview process is not very focused on the development aspect because again, if so, this DSA problem solving skill is seen as a proxy of your ability to learn new things and to solve or learn or adapt new tech stacks, right? So they will be asking you your questions on these particular segments. Say DSA is there, it's like 2 rounds on DSA, then on OO, right? So if you are not very hands-on on open source, right, it's okay. Try to at least get to a level where you can write good code in the object-oriented round. Okay. For example, I think Flipkart has this machine coding round that they do. So you may be excellent into your CP skills, but if you really flunk that round, I think that will reflect poorly on your entire process. So have at least the basics covered for everything. Have a balanced preparation.
Let's move on to the third one, sir. That was a very nice answer. I'm having knowledge of Python, but I've heard that for coding rounds, C++ is more beneficial as compared to Python. So should I learn C++ for coding rounds or just focus on Python?
See, I think right now Python is also allowed in a lot of companies coding around, and probably there are a very small margin of companies who don't allow Python, but I don't really know whether that's a case right now. So, see, it's fine if you stick to one language, it's absolutely okay. But try to know the entirety of the language. Like, you should not be like, hey, I don't know how to code some like a queue in this Pythonic way. So I'll use this C++ for this particular question, right? Try to have a command over these particular use cases in one language. It's probably fine. You can use any language of your choice. Python is widely accepted now.
Okay, sir. And what would be your last minute tips before going for an interview, as there's a lot of pressure and we might end up messing our interview?
Yes, yes, definitely. So definitely before you sit for the interview, I can't say have a good night's sleep because yeah, my sleep schedule is not very good myself. So, but I would definitely say that interviews are really subjective. Okay, nobody can say I can definitely crack this particular XYZ company. They can just increase their likelihood. Okay, so be aware of that. This process has some biases on the side of the humans that are involved in this, right? We are not robots, we are not perfect. So it's fine, it's perfectly subjective. And like even if you flunk a couple of them, what's the harm? Okay, I mean, you take a nihilistic approach, like you are just insignificant in the cosmic universe. So yeah, no harm done. So yeah, take a light approach. Light should be used here and don't go it.
Okay, sir. Thank you. And could you suggest another open source competition similar to GSOC?
Hmm. So I think right now, like a couple of open source communities have their own summer of codes. For example, I am aware that KDE, right, that has its own summer of code. Also, Mozilla has one, right, and a lot of these companies have a good offering for female folks. You should definitely check out a lot of them. Even if you're not able to participate into these specific competitions or programs, I would say don't worry. Go to GitHub, say you want to contribute to Python software organization. Okay. Go to the repo, try to look for issues. Generally, these are very, very beginner friendly. Okay. They will give you a mailing list address or a group address. Okay. You can just join that. Shoot a welcome message that, hey, I am so and so from this university. I am just starting. Can you please help me get started? Or you can also look for issues there yourself. There are in on GitHub you have these particular labels that easy to fix, beginners, right? Just sort the issues with that, start contributing. It's very rewarding. The community is amazing.
That was very well put, sir. So, any extra steps to be taken during practice school too? How did that go for you?
Yeah, pet school too is a very nice experience, I would say, because it's your probably your first proper introduction to the corporate machinery, right? So I would say try to extract as much as good information from your mentors over there. If you are planning for a PPO, work accordingly. Ensure that they know your expectation from them from the early on that you are here for a PPO. Okay, so they make some headcount changes if required, and try to be very proactive during that time. And mostly you will be in a new city, so definitely network with people from other campuses. It's the basis of very good and fruitful relationships and friendships going forward.
Okay, sir. Yeah, so we got another question right here. I have a CG of 6.53. Does this count in decent? I did CP last year.
Okay, so I think right now you should first talk to the placement coordinator right now and ask from their perspective how many companies are below this threshold. Okay, because if it happens that this is hampering some of the companies from putting you onto slot, probably there is something to be done on this department, right? Or if they are saying that okay, fine, you can probably sit for a lot of companies, it's fine then. But I would say for off-campus placements, you can definitely try. in that regard, I don't think that this will be a make or break thing for a lot of companies.
Okay. I hope that will answer their questions. Does the submissions on Code Forces or HackerRank give us an edge in interview, or are those meant only for our own preparation?
So I'll ask a question to you. If you can rig a system, it's never a good proxy of your credibility. So I mean, I see a lot of current phenomena where people are cheating on these platforms. Okay, so I don't think these platforms would serve as a very good proxy for you guys. And just for the sake of it, maintaining streaks or trying to one up your rating by doing malicious things is not at all beneficial, because in the real interview you will be asked real questions, and if you have skills you will definitely ace them. But if you are just trying to up your stars by doing long challenges somehow, it will not benefit you. As simple as that.
No, true, sir. Very true. Yeah. So, last question. What are the facts to consider while choosing an organization for GSOC?
Yeah. It's a very tricky question, because so I think what I did, I can just talk about my experience. I can't generalize this because different people have different experience with this. So what I did was I just collected the data for past years, okay, past 8 years or something. And then firstly, I tried to see like what is the organization which is participating consistently, like which is not getting ruled out by Google itself, right? Because if you talk specifically about Google Summer of Code, your organization must also be selected in the program first of all. So try to get an organization which is getting selected. Then uh, definitely look for all the projects that they have, one by one, one by one. It's a very it's a very long process. I understand. Firstly, getting an organization on board, it's again you have to see through hundreds of them. No shortcut. Do it. Okay. Then the projects, and then after you select a project, make sure that you put forward a very strong proposal. Get in touch with your mentors over there. Try to talk about and get a feedback early on, right? Because ultimately your proposal will be judged. Okay, so it has to contain the entire step of how you will try to achieve this project over the course of 3 months, and your particular steps, concrete as concrete they can be towards the start. Try to pass it through. I think if you do this, there is a good chance that you will get through.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So, thanks a lot for your time, Mr. Abhimanyu. It was a very informative session for all of us. I believe it will help many students structure their roadmap ahead. If you guys are interested, you can check out his blog at abhimanyutimes.com. So, would you like to deliver a short message to the audience?
Yeah, sure, sure. So first of all, thanks a lot, folks, for listening to me, and I wish you all the best for your entire preparation journey. And I mean, these roadmaps and talks, yeah, they give you an idea, but ultimately you have to forge your own strategy. And don't worry a lot about that, because with time and with particular consistent efforts, you will be able to do that. Okay. So don't worry about that too much, but yeah, have a definite plan in mind. Try to build your portfolio from early on so that whatever your goals are, it is reflective of that. With that, yeah, have fun, guys, and hope to see this college very soon.
I would like to thank Quark Controls for giving me this opportunity to host this wonderful event. Thank you all for attending the stream. I'm your host, Praneeth, signing off. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye, sir.